welcome to Asana with Jess. Starting in our easy pose, legs crossed, bringing our hands to heart center, taking a few deep breaths to set the tone for today's yoga class. Set an intention, one that you want to uphold for the duration of this deep stretch yoga session. Breathing in deeply through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, letting it all go. Starting with some neck stretches now, move your hands underneath your hips, pinning them to the mat, palms facing down, tilting your head towards the right shoulder. Closing your eyes if you want. Giving your body a bit of mobility before we start. And gently returning your head to center, and this time tilting towards the left shoulder. Feeling the deep stretch across the right side of the neck and breathing into it. And gently bringing your head back to center, and take some head rolls, drawing big circles with your nose. And going the other way this time. Taking one more circle here and returning your head to center. Moving now, coming into a tabletop position on your hands and knees, making sure your hips are in line with your knees. Thread your left arm through towards the right hand side, resting the side of your head on the mat, and bring the right arm to the ground, resting on your elbow. This is a slight alteration of our puppy dog pose, bringing in a bit of a supine twist to really warm the back up. You can bring your right hand onto your fingertips if that is easier to balance. One more breath here. Bringing the left arm back up, and this time threading the right arm towards the left hand side. Bringing the left arm above your head, resting either on your elbow or on your fingertips. Remembering to breathe into the stretch feeling the gentle twist in the spine. Taking one more deep breath in this pose. And bringing that right arm back up to center. This time coming down to your elbows, pressing your forehead on the mat, bringing your hands into a prayer position and tipping them towards the back of your head. You should feel a nice deep opening in the upper back in this version of puppy dog pose. Take 10 breaths here. Focus on dropping your chest towards the mat with a nice deep back bend, and if you can, bring your chin to the mat and look forward. Otherwise, stay in the forehead pressed on the mat version. Last breath here. Keeping your elbows planted on the mat, tip your body forward, driving through the hips, coming into our cobra pose. Looking up towards the ceiling, lengthening through the spine. And when you are ready, leading with the hips, pushing back into our puppy dog pose. Keeping the elbows planted throughout the transition. And pushing through, driving with the hips, coming down into our cobra. Shifting through these two poses will increase mobility in the shoulders and the back. And one last time, pushing through the hips, coming back into our puppy dog pose. And driving through the hips, coming forward into our cobra. This time pressing the fingertips on the mat. Inhale, and on the exhale lift the chest up, gazing towards the ceiling. And exhale, release. Inhale, and this time on the exhale pushing up into our upward facing dog, so lifting the thighs off the mat, hovering here, and tipping the hips into the sky, untucking the toes for downward dog. Walking the feet out as needed, bending one knee at a time, warming the calves and the hamstrings up. And for variation, start to double bounce when each knee bends, deepening that stretch. Pressing both heels towards the mat, drawing your sternum towards the ground and letting your head relax, gazing towards your feet or your knees. Take 4 to 6 small steps towards your hands, coming into a forward fold at the top of your mat. Taking a few breaths here in our ragdoll position. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthening through the spine, looking forward. Exhale, fold. Bending at the knees, bringing the hands into the sky and drawing them down to heart center. Breathing through the nose to reset. Inhale, lifting the hands up, taking a baby back bend on the exhale, hinging at the hips, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, exhale, fold. Step the right foot back into low lunge, followed by the left foot, and flow through a chaturanga into upward facing dog. Inhaling, and on the exhale, pushing the hips to the sky and untucking the toes, downward dog. Really lengthening through the arms, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Lifting your left hand and bringing it to the right ankle, taking a slight twist, looking under that right armpit. Feeling that slight twist in the back, lengthening the back muscles while deepening the stretch in the hamstrings. And releasing that hand to the ground, this time lifting the right hand, bringing it to the left ankle, looking up underneath the left armpit. Releasing tension in the neck, letting the head hang loose. And releasing that hand to the mat. Inhale, and on the exhale, lift the right foot into the sky for three-legged dog, pointing the toes, engaging all of the leg muscles and keeping your hips square. Feeling that stretch in the hamstrings. And when you're ready, bend that knee, opening up in the hips, feeling that shift in the stretch. Now stronger in your calf muscles, and pointing that knee up into the sky. And lift that knee, drawing it in towards the chest, between the hands, and placing it on the mat, untucking the back toes for our pigeon pose, aiming to have your foot parallel to the knee, but if you have to bend it a little bit more, that is okay. Staying up on your hands, and once you have warmed up and are ready, you can come down onto your elbows. A nice deep hip opening pose, feeling that stretch all up the glutes and breathing into any tightness, bringing oxygen to it. And relaxing even further with every exhale. See if you can get that foot more in line with the knee, shifting your weight a little bit if you need to. And for an optional glute stretch, you can come back up onto your hands and lift that back foot off the mat, bending at the knee, making the foot come to you, and reaching out with your right hand, holding onto that ankle, looking towards that foot and pulling it in as far as your body allows, and releasing it to the mat. Shuffling out of this pose, bringing the right foot forward into a low lunge. Relaxing your weight into that front foot. And bringing the left hand to the mat for stability, use your right hand to push that right knee away from you. Pushing the right foot onto its side. If you can, let the leg relax outwards and bring both hands to the mat. You can even come down to your elbows if your practice allows. One more deep, slow breath here. And from whichever version of this pose you are in, lift yourself up and straighten the right leg, lifting the foot towards you, resting on your heel, trying to pull the right hip back and the left hip forward for our half splits pose. Feeling this deep stretch up the right hamstring, flexing that foot and trying not to collapse over that leg. Use your right hand to push your foot towards the left, gently pointing the toes, feeling that slightly different stretch. This is just a variation of our half splits. And releasing that hand, bending back into that right leg and lifting the left knee. Low lunge, kick the right foot back into our downward dog. Flow through a vinyasa to reset. This part is optional. Meeting back in downward dog. Moving to the other side this time, lifting the left foot into the sky, pointing that foot, keeping the hips squared for three-legged dog. Breathing in to the tight spots in that right leg, pointing the toes to engage the muscles. And when you're ready, bending at the knee, lifting the hips open. Taking a few breaths here. And when you are ready, swoop that knee in towards the chest between the hands and place it down on your mat, untucking the right toes, trying to get your left foot in line with the knee and staying on your hands first. For our pigeon pose on the other side this time. If your body is feeling comfortable and you feel warmed up enough, try and take the variation on your elbows. You can close your eyes and relax in this restorative yet very deep stretch. Breathing deeply in through the nose and exhaling, letting it all go. And for an added thigh stretch, lift the back foot, bending at the knee, making the foot come to you, reaching around and grabbing onto it with your left hand. And releasing that foot to the mat, shuffling that front knee and placing the left foot on the mat for our low lunge. Making sure your knee is behind the ankle and you're sinking through the hips. Place your right hand on the mat and use your left hand to push that left knee away from you, rolling that foot onto its side. Place both hands on the mat if your body allows. And for an added stretch, you can come down to your elbows. Breathing deeply into this hip opener, closing your eyes to relax. When you are ready, from whichever variation of this pose you are in, make your way up onto your hands, shuffle that foot in and lean back into the hips, tipping that foot up, flexing it, coming onto the back of the heel for our half splits pose. Remembering to pull the right hip forward and the left hip back. Trying to keep your hip in line with the bent knee. Using your right hand, push that foot away from your body towards the right. Thinking about how this stretch feels slightly different up the back of the leg. And when you're ready, bend back into that front leg, lifting the back foot up, taking the knee off the mat for a low lunge and kicking back into downward dog. This is optional, but you can flow through a vinyasa to reset, coming into upward facing dog and meeting back in our downward dog. Take 4 to 6 small steps towards your hands, coming into a forward fold at the top of your mat. Taking 5 deep breaths in this pose, decompressing the spine, bending at the knees if you need to rest your fingertips on the mat. Intertwining your fingers behind the legs for a different kind of stretch, feeling this one in the upper back. Inhale for halfway lift, exhale and fold, bending at the knees, bringing the hands into the sky and down to heart center. Inhale to reset, and on the exhale, take a big step towards the left, coming into a wide-legged stance. Turning the toes slightly inwards, interlacing the fingers behind the back, and tipping forward into a wide-legged forward fold, letting your hands fall above your head, incorporating a deep stretch throughout the back. Imagining there is a string attached to the crown of your head, pulling it towards the mat, keeping a straight back and letting those arms relax a little bit further. One more breath here. And slowly, inch by inch, leading with the hands, pull your torso back up, shuffle your feet in a little bit, bend at the knees and come down into your yoga squat. You can use your hands in a prayer position to push the knees out with your elbows, or you can place the left hand on the mat, bringing the right arm directly behind you, looking up towards that arm in the sky for a back stretch. Prayer pose to reset, and now place the right hand on the mat, lifting the left arm behind you, gazing towards that hand, feeling the shoulder blades release, and coming back to center. Lower your hips to the mat, bending the left knee and bending the right knee over top of that left knee, making sure the right foot is planted on the ground. Using your left hand, pulling that knee towards you and looking over your right shoulder for a supine twist version of our shoelace pose. Breathing in to any tightness in the hip, and slowing your breathing, moving into the more restorative poses of today's class. Unraveling the legs, and this time taking your right leg bent and bringing the left leg over top of that right leg, bending at the knee, making sure that left foot is planted on the mat. And you're using your right hand to pull that knee towards you, looking over the left shoulder. Making sure your back is straight and you're not hunching. Feeling this stretch both in the back and in the hip muscles. And unraveling your legs, coming into our bound angle pose. Bottoms of the feet together, knees out, keeping a straight spine. And holding onto your feet with your hands. Feeling this deep stretch in the groin, opening up in the hips, and closing your eyes. Thinking back now to the intention that you set at the start of today's class. Think about how you practice this intention, or what you could do better next time. Congratulate yourself on upholding your intention. And making sure there is enough room behind you, slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, make your way onto your back, keeping your legs in the bound angle pose, and perhaps bringing one hand to your diaphragm and one hand to your heart. Feeling the rise of the tummy, the puku, when you inhale, and the fall of the stomach when you exhale. Feel your heart beating, telling you it's had a good workout. And think of one thing you are grateful for today. Focus on the spot in the middle of your forehead between your eyes if you have trouble tuning things out. Now is your time to clear your mind and come into a state of peace and relaxation. Relax every inch of your body, letting your knees fall out to the sides. You can stay in this pose for however long you like, or you can end your practice here. Thank you so much for practicing yoga with me today. Sending you love and light. Namaste.